Slim Thugger. Drink by the paint, drove by the pine. Headed to the club in the box top down. Slim Thug about to climb, represent H-time. If you love me, you gon' smile. If you hate me, you gon' grind.
Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the front suspension of the car. We're going to be mounting up the lower control arms and then the upper control arms and then the struts. And then hopefully the knuckle, and we'll probably have the car back on the ground pretty soon. If not on this episode, then the next episode for sure. But yeah, let's stop wasting time and let's get to it. So like I said, we are going to be working on the front suspension. We're going to get the lower control arms, upper control arms, struts, and we're basically going to get the car back on the ground by the end of today's episode. Alright, I'm going to bolt it up like this. I'm going to pull this part up, put this along with it, and then put this in last, just so that this part isn't in the way right here. So there's basically two portions for the lower control arm. The reason why I took it off is to make it easier for me to install it, because if I had the other part for the front of the lower control arm, it would have made it a little bit more difficult to install. And if I just installed it with just the pivot bushing, the arm wouldn't really fit inside because it was at a weird angle, so I just put it all together like this. And then later on, I put the other part of the lower control arm. You'll see in a bit. Make sure to get these 3 bolts torqued down. Now this was the other portion of the lower control arm I was talking about. It's a lot easier to install it separately because then nothing's really in the way. All you gotta do is slip it in and then bolt it up. And that's about it. By the way guys, these are 17 millimeters. Alright guys, there it is, mocked up. I'm not gonna show the installation for the upper control arms and the strut because it's pretty self-explanatory. I already showed it in the previous video. But yeah, we're gonna put that back together and then torque everything down. And then this bolt back here, right here, is a 19 millimeter, and I just tighten it with this after the suspension is preloaded. And then let's do the other side. Once I was done installing the passenger side, we moved on to installing the rack and pinion. I suggest having a second person to help you guide the rack and pinion through the subframe. It's a lot easier this way, but you can still manage with one person. I also recommend to remove the shift linkage and the exhaust so it's not in the way. It honestly wasn't a very hard process. The hardest thing about installing the rack and pinion is probably getting everything aligned, but once you got everything aligned, it's pretty easy to do. Right here you can see me aligning the rack, and then I'll be moving on to the driver's side to do the same thing. And then after that I'll be going inside the car under the steering column to attach the spline of the rack to the universal joint to steer the car. While somebody's outside trying to align the rack and pinion, make sure somebody else is inside the car to align the universal joint to the spline of the rack and pinion. Once you got the whole rack and pinion aligned, I suggest bolting up the brackets. There's one on the passenger side, and then on the driver's side it's part of the rack and pinion. I explained it in my previous video when I was taking out the rack and pinion. I went into detail about the brackets, but yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy to do. As soon as we were done bolting down the whole rack and pinion, we moved on to attaching the lines. This is pretty easy but tedious because it takes a while with the wrench. There's a lot of lines in the way, but it's pretty easy to do. And this is the last line and everything's bolted up. I went ahead and attached the tie rod end. All it was the lock nut and the tie rod end. You gotta make sure both sides are kind of equal so you have a decent alignment before you go to the alignment shop and you make it safe. This is the passenger side. I got the tie rod on, the strut, the upper control arm, and the strut tower. All I gotta do is just put the axle where it belongs and then bolt up the lower control arm to the strut. I also thought it was a good idea to clean under the wheel well. It looks a lot better, especially on the driver's side. Two days passed and I've already gotten the car aligned. I got the tie rods attached, the knuckle back on, and the upper control arm installed, and the lower ball joint installed also. I also got the new painted rotors on. They look pretty clean, honestly. I didn't show the process because it was pretty easy. I got the sway bar on. I'll have a separate video on that. And I mean, it was pretty easy. The hard part about it was probably getting the axle on. And other than that, it was pretty easy. Everything, you just pop it in and then bolt it down. That's about it. It's pretty easy. And then I also got new lower ball joints. I'll show you guys a kit that I used for it, but honestly it was super easy to install it. And to install the axles, we used that 32mm from earlier and a hammer, and hammered the socket to kind of help the axle go in. And this is the car back on all fours. And yes, if you're wondering, I already took the car to the alignment shop. And it's definitely lower because of the lowering springs, and I like the new look. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any rollers for this episode, but in the next, I'll be talking about the new suspension and telling you guys how it feels. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.